All right, welcome back. Jeff Barnes here again with Digital Evolution Marketing Group. And today I want to talk about the challenges that most business owners face when scaling up their company. And there's a number of different challenges that everybody faces. Now, I've run everything from the finance department and raising capital to handling taxes and then, of course, marketing, everything to do with marketing on the advertising side, the copywriting, the content, the web development. We do so much on the technology piece as well. So I know everything when it comes to operating and building a CRM and an ERP and all of those different tools, everything in between. I've literally worked in everything except for maybe the legal departments, and I've still had to review contracts and licenses and all sorts of stuff. I've started up over 25 different businesses, not just myself, but with partners. I've dealt with government entities. I've had a lot of experience. And I've worked inside of billion-dollar companies. I've run my own 8-figure and 7-figure companies and a number of 6-figure smaller businesses. So I know what I'm talking about when it comes to scaling a business. And here's the thing that I want to say. I have an MBA and I worked inside the Navy, one of the best operating entities in the world. I worked inside of some of the biggest companies in the world, and I've partnered with some of the biggest companies in the world when I was doing that. And so I know what it takes to operate a really successful business. I also know what it takes to start a really successful business and scale one up into, an 8-figure company rather quickly. But I also know it's a hell of a lot harder than most people want to admit. You see, a lot of people, probably your employees, probably your family, look at you and say, well, you're a business owner, you're obviously rich, right? Or they look at it and think that you're the evil person because you're making all the money. And most of them, unless they've been that entrepreneur or that business owner, they don't know how damn hard it is to actually grow a business. And even if you step in as a CEO for a middle market company, it's a lot of stinking work, right? You have to think about so many different things on the innovation, the vision, the future of the company, dealing with shareholders and the board members and so on. Right? There's a lot that goes into scaling up a company. And I can say that without a doubt, the biggest challenge that most business owners face, now I'm talking about the owner, not somebody who's a CEO who's just working inside of a company to get a paycheck and reports to a board of directors. I'm talking about the person who owns the company right now, who maybe they were the founder and they've been the sole owner this whole time. Maybe you bought the business and now you're the only owner of the company, or maybe you have a couple partners. Here is the biggest challenge that when it comes to scaling up a business. And before I say what I think most people's challenge is, I want you to realize this is coming from a standpoint of I've been there, I've done this, I've gone through it, I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen to myself. I've felt the pain and the frustration of dealing with this. And as a result, I also know that what I'm about to say is sounds way easier than it really is to implement. Okay? And there's a reason for that, right? There's a reason that only some companies, like I think it's less than 0.1% of companies, of all companies, achieve 8 figures in revenue and beyond. And the reason why is because even though the simplicity of this is just like, duh, of course that makes sense, the actual implementation of it is really, really challenging. And it comes down to this. Your marketing, your sales, and your operations need to be in complete alignment in order for your company to grow. Now, what does that actually mean, right? Everybody would say, well, yeah, of course, everybody needs to know what's happening inside the company for it to grow. Of course that makes sense, Jeff. Duh, right? But here's the thing. Most people don't realize that when you start to get to a certain point in your business, and $1 million is one benchmark. That's when you start taking on some decent employees. At about $5 million, you're starting to separate out and you have a little bit of a C-suite. At $10 million, you're starting to have divisions. And if you get to that $100 million range, you have departments, right? Maybe at $50 million, you might start implementing that a little bit earlier. You have departments with department heads and divisions underneath of them. And then you have employees that are the boots on the ground workers and everything like that. And getting from being the solopreneur, the solo operator, to having a C-suite, right? That's a big leap. And then going from having a C-suite to having divisions, and that's another big leap. And then having employees that work inside of those divisions. All of these are big steps, especially for an entrepreneur, because the entrepreneur is very much a visionary and they don't like to operate the things, right? Most entrepreneurs like to do one thing inside that business and that became the business, right? So in the E-Myth, Michael Gerber talks about, maybe you're a great auto mechanic and you think, well, I'm not going to go work for the man. I'm going to go start my own shop. Well, the auto mechanic should only be doing one thing, right? He should only be working on cars because that's the thing that brings the money in. Well, if he's only working on the cars, who's selling to new customers to make sure that he's working on the cars, right? So let's just use this example. If you're the auto mechanic and you're great at fixing cars, right? And let's just say you're really great at fixing high-end luxury German cars, right? That's your niche. You figured out your niche. At least you were smart enough to choose that and you got your ACE certification in that, okay? So now I'm going to go fix the high-end luxury German cars and that's what makes me the most money. Great, that's wonderful. Well, now you have to let the world know that you do that, right? That's marketing. Well, the marketing and the technician, the operator, generally go hand in hand because now I know what it is I do as the technician, as the guy working on the car. I know what it is I do. I'm the expert at it. I'm great at doing this thing. So I can go write a little ad or I can go put something out on Facebook or I can go write up a letter to somebody, right? And it also turns out that when somebody responds to that ad, right? Back in the day, it used to be the yellow pages and now it might be every door direct mail flyer that's going out. It might be a direct mail piece that you send out to every German car owner in the neighborhood or in the county. You might be putting ads on Facebook, right? You're doing all these different things because you know what it is you do. We are the best at taking care of your entire powertrain on your luxury German vehicles. Great. So now every luxury German vehicle owner who might have a problem with their car is going to be looking for the mechanic. You've also put yourself in a really great business where you're in the pill business, right? You're in the fix the problem business, not the prevent a problem business, right? When you're in the prevent a problem business, that's a lot harder of a sell than it is the fix a problem business. So you're in the fix a problem business for a very tightly defined niche. That's great. Guess what? That's called marketing, right? Because you learned the skill, that's the operations. Lovely. Glad you did that. But now you got to have customers. So to get the customers, you got to do the marketing. To do the marketing, we have to tell them what it is we do, right? That's wonderful. Well, there's a piece in between. There's a piece between marketing and operations, and that is the sale, right? The sale, the customer onboarding, the closing, and getting from customer came in the door, said they're interested in what it is we have to offer, to selling them, signing a contract, exchange of money, to then go do the work. So the salesperson is in the middle. Well, again, when you're the solo entrepreneur, the solopreneur, you're that person too. So not only do you have to write the ad and write the articles and put the stuff out there and go to the networking events and tell everybody what you do, then you got to work on the contract, then you got to create the invoice and give them the invoice, then you got to collect the money, then you got to take that money and put it in the bank, and then there's the accounting piece of it. I include the accounting and the operations. But you also have to do the accounting piece, and now you have to go do the work and you have to get the job done. This is where things get really difficult for entrepreneurs. All the entrepreneur wants to do, whether you're a software developer, you're an auto mechanic, you are the dance instructor, you're the coach. Guess what? All you want to do is the thing that you learned how to do in the first place that you're really good at. There's a reason you got good at that thing. This is also the number one reason why most technicians do not scale up big companies. This is the challenge that the person going from maybe a few $100,000 to a few $1 million faces. What do I outsource first? What do I get rid of? Well, if you're really good at this thing and it's a really highly valuable skill, you should not stop doing that, right? If what you are doing took you 20 years to learn and you get paid $500 an hour or $1,000 an hour to do it, probably don't stop doing it because it took you 20 years to get here. You're not going to be able to hand it off to Joe Schmuckatelli and have them take it over, right? So instead, you got to continue doing this, which means you have to have somebody else do the marketing, and then you have to have somebody else do the selling. And this is where aligning marketing, sales, and operations comes in. Now, you can expand this out to a multinational conglomerate as well, because the person who's doing the work inside of your business, that could be making the widget on the manufacturing line and supplying it to the customer, If they don't know how to make the widget perfectly, then the customer's not going to be happy. But conversely, if what the salesperson is selling is not actually the widgets that's being made, of course they're not going to like it. So then what do you have? You have customer service issues, you have complaints, you have chargebacks, you have refunds, you have all these other things you have to deal with. Also, if the salesperson sells something and oversells it, and the operations team, whether that's the software engineer or the auto mechanic or the guy who's building the cars, like, well, wait a second, we weren't planning on rolling that out for another year. Now all of a sudden you have a miscommunication happening between your sales and your operations. If your marketing team is talking about all these incredible features that they're going to be putting out in the next model, but the operations team is behind and they haven't caught up because there's a bottleneck somewhere in the process or there's a supply chain issue and they can't provide that, but the marketing team has put it out there. Maybe even the sales team knows, hey, we're not going to be able to sell that for another year, but now they're getting customer calls or prospective customers calling in, hey, I thought you guys could do this thing. Sorry, no, we can't do that. Also not good, right? This is where a lot of businesses falter. And we get to this level of essentially homeostasis or a steady state in a business where the business owner or the C-suite or the CEO says, this is the level that I can operate at without the wheels falling off the bus. Because I can now, because me as the CEO, I can manage the expectations of the operating team, the sales team, the marketing team, and the stakeholders, the customers, the vendors. I can manage that because I understand what's happening. If we go beyond this, if we try and scale up and we try and get more customers, all of a sudden I have problems. So I've settled into this place where I am comfortable. And I am comfortable right here because I can manage all of these issues. You see, that's what happens, and that's why a lot of companies will stall at a certain level. And the level they stall at could be very different for different companies, right? In one company, I'll give you an example, like Bird's Eye Food. They were able to go and scale into the hundreds of millions of dollars because they had a very well-defined process that was very easy to replicate over and over again and build new plants. It was very easy to sell it because everybody knew what it was, frozen foods, frozen peas and carrots and veggies, right? Everybody understands what that is. And now we can just go market it. So now we've just built our sales team and our marketing team to go develop different channel partnerships and go sell. And we also know the capacity of our manufacturing plants. We know how many pounds of food we can put out per hour. And so if we sell, we need to match whatever they're selling. And if all of a sudden we're able to sell a lot more, they know they either need to run double shifts, triple shifts, or go build another manufacturing line. Now, the problem is that every MBA program talks about that, right? We still talk about just-in-time production. We talk about the lean manufacturing process and Kaizen and Six Sigma and all of this stuff, right? We talk about all of that as if every company is a big business. And that's great for the MBAs who go out there and want to work in these Fortune 500 businesses in middle management. But it's not great if you're the business owner or the CEO and you're looking to take a $5 million company to $50 million or $500 million. Because you have to understand what's happening inside of your business. And when your marketing, your sales, and your operations teams are not fully aligned, that's when we start to run into these problems. Now, of course, there's a million other problems that can happen. But I'm going to tell you right now, that's the biggest one. If all of a sudden you cannot scale up your operations because you don't know the capacity of your operating team, your manufacturing plant, you only have 4 bays in your auto shop and you can't go beyond that because you're filling all 4 bays up for 40 to 60 hours a week. Well, guess what? That's an operating capacity limitation. So your sales team should not try and outsell that stuff. But they could be smart and put everybody on backlog and say, yeah, we can get you in here in 3 months. And if you want to be moved to the top line, maybe you buy our membership. And if you buy our membership, you come to the top line, right? That's just another little tactic you can put in there. But these are the things that you have to think about when you're scaling up your company. And so the only way to overcome this is by sitting down with your executive team and hashing out what the problems are that you guys are seeing as it's coming along, and then figuring out how do we fix the problem? Because if you have excess capacity in any area, right? If your operation, especially if it's an excess capacity in your operating side, that either means you have too many people, you have too big of a production facility, or you're just not selling enough. And generally, it's just you're not selling enough. And if you're not selling enough, then you have to ask your sales team, well, what's going on? They might say, well, we don't have enough leads. Well, if you don't have enough leads, marketing team, what's going on? Well, we're spending all of our budget. We're not getting good leads. Oh, well, geez, now we got to look at our marketing side because that's the limiting factor right there. It's not sales, it's not operations, it's marketing. Well, what seems to be the problem? Well, we're getting terrible conversion rates on our sales pages. Okay, that's a problem. We're getting terrible conversion rates on our appointment booking. That's a process. Our email is only getting opened at 2% open rates. That's terrible. Okay, we need to fix that. So now we know where to focus our problems. Or maybe it's like, hey, everything's working really well, but we set our marketing budget at $5,000 a month, and so we're stuck. Well, if we say, wait, we have excess sales capacity, we can generate more leads and fill up our sales team's calendar. Why aren't we doing that? Because if our sales team's calendar is getting filled up and we know we can sell 20% more, and we know our sales team has the capability of doing that, then we should be spending more money on our advertising, more money on our marketing, fill up the sales team's calendar, fill up the operating pipeline. That's the way you have to think about scaling up a company. Now, there's a million different little nuances inside of that, and I know you're aware of that. But just think through that process as what's the limiting factor inside of your business right now that's preventing you from growing? And I guarantee if you spend some time thinking about this, or if you sit down with your executive team and you say, what is it going to take for us to scale up? And then throw out some scenarios with them. Let's say I increase the number of leads by 20%. I increase the number of sales calls by 20%. I increase the number of sales by 20%. Ask each executive who's in charge of those areas, and hopefully you have them if you're trying to scale up, what's going to break first? That's going to really help you figure out how to start scaling up your company and how to align your marketing and sales and operations better.